Keroppi to Kerolee no Splash Bomb is the final Famicom game to be released by Charactersoft, the video game publishing arm of Sanrio. It's also the third game starring the frog Keroppi, the most popular Sanrio character of the early 90s, though I think Hello Kitty's back on top again these days. When Sanrio decided to finally get their characters into video games, they made a very smart decision early on. Rather than hand off their license to an existing publisher, they chose to do it themselves. And instead of just making any game with a popular character in it, they made an effort to have a high level of quality. That didn't always work out, but they made some exceptional games that tend to fly under the radar because they have cute characters in them. And rather than just making the most simple game possible for children, many of their games provide a genuine challenge. The most common comment I saw about Charactersoft games was, "This was way too hard for kids." I'd say Splash Bomb doesn't have that problem. I beat the game after 1 hour and 2 minutes. But at the same time, there's some rather tricky, mean things in it. The plot of the game is that Keroppi and Keroleen's friend Teru has been abducted. And of course, since it's a video game, if your friend's abducted, you have to go get them back. The concept of the game could be loosely described as, what if Bomberman and Zelda were the same game? There are 4 stages here that are effectively dungeons, and you have to find your way through a weirdly elaborate maze to get to a boss. As you're walking around, hitting B will drop a water balloon, and the water balloons will put out fires, smash bricks, and kill enemies. But if they hit you, they only push you backwards. So that's actually a lot kinder than Bomberman. Something useful to be aware of for finding your way through the maze is that the doors between rooms are always open, and rooms on the same floor are only ever connected horizontally. And then you have staircases that can take you up and down to the exact same position on the floor above or below you. The fact that the position remains the same is important, since later mazes will often have rooms that are partitioned, and you'll have to figure out how to get into another section. You'll find power-ups throughout the maze. These can be found 3 different ways. They could be laying out in the open, they could be uncovered by smashing a wall section, or they might appear when you kill all enemies on the screen. Now before you start going on screen-clearing, enemy-wiping, murderous rampages, there is something you should be aware of. Screens completely reset if you exit them and come back in, and you're probably going to have to do a lot of backtracking in the maze. If there's a hidden item in a room, there's only one hidden item in the room, so keep that in mind as you're searching. What power-ups can you find? Well, the water balloon symbol will let you drop an additional water balloon. At the start, you can only drop 1, and while chain reactions aren't as powerful as they are in Bomberman, you're still going to want to use them, even if they're on a little bit of a delay. The ruler extends the explosion radius a bit. There's a hard cap of 4 on those. You can collect more than 4 rulers, but the explosion won't get any bigger after that. The rice ball will make you invincible until you leave the room. You'll be able to walk through fire and kill enemies just by touching them. The pill turns you into a ghost, letting you walk through anything that wouldn't hurt you. It's never required to use the pill to find your way through the maze, but there are places where the pill is a shortcut. Finally, the heart is an extra life. You start with 3 lives, and you lose 1 by being touched by any enemy or touching fire. So don't do that. Enemy patterns tend to be relatively simple in Splash Bomb. On the first stage, most of them will just move horizontally or vertically, while in later stages they might pass through walls to chase you down, or change direction every time they collide with something. One more terrain feature that you should be aware of are the grates. The water from your balloons just flows down them, so they block the splashes. Sometimes it'll block you, but sometimes you can use that to your advantage. At the end of all the mazes, there's a boss room, and you'll have to splash the boss a lot to defeat them. They're generally not too difficult. Just stay out of their way and avoid the flames that they drop. But this boss liked hanging out on the grates where I couldn't hit him, and the final boss can just drop meteors on your head if you're not careful. Still, if you watch your step and be patient, you shouldn't have any trouble defeating them. I get the impression that you're really supposed to play Splash Bomb with a friend. There's a 2-player mode, but no competitive 2-player. The 2 of you are supposed to work together, and a player exiting a room will suck the other one along with them. The danger of the two-player mode is accidentally splashing your friend into an enemy. While Splash Bomb isn't wildly popular in Japan, the people who do know about it seem to like it quite a bit. People seem to have fond childhood memories of this one. While Charactersoft has started shifting over to the Super Famicom, as a division of Sanrio, they don't last much longer. They released 2 games in 1994, and then they shut down. All of the Sanrio games after that are just licensed out to people. I think the key to understanding Splash Bomb is that it's not a Bomberman game. It's a maze game that has Bomberman mechanics bolted onto it. And unfortunately, the maze aspects are the weakest part of the game. There aren't a whole lot of rooms that act as distinctive landmarks. A lot of them wind up feeling the same, and if you go down a path that takes you 3 or 4 rooms to reach a dead end, and then have to come back, there isn't a lot of guidance to tell you which way you came from. Now obviously I found my way through the game without too much trouble, thanks to the always useful strategy of thinking, if I were designing this game, which path would I make the correct one? Basically, you look for the places that are interesting, and those will be the directions that they want you to go. That worked for me, but if you have a poor sense of direction, you're going to have a miserable time with this game. Also, on later stages, a lot of the rooms aren't really set up for you to be able to run in and blow things up. You'll have to blast yourself out of a corner a lot. Splash Bomb's a decent game, but it's not really spectacular. I found myself wishing that they would have done more with it. Had more terrain features, had a wider variety of enemies, had better mazes. I really wish Splash Bomb could have gotten a sequel. I think they could have ironed out all these problems and created something really spectacular if they had taken another pass at it.